I'm Scott. This video is for my section hike along the Appalachian Trail from Partnership Shelter to Trent's Grocery, 76 miles. This video is part of a series of videos I have that document my section hiking along the Appalachian Trail, the AT. In this video, I'll cover my 76-mile section hike along the Appalachian Trail from Partnership Shelter near Marion, Virginia to Trent's Grocery, which is near Bland, Virginia. This section hike is considered my 7th section hike hiking north along the Appalachian Trail. This section hike took place in July 2016. My hiking buddy, Larry, joined me on this section hike. It was 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning when Larry and I jumped in his truck and we drove the 6 hours from Shepherdsville, Kentucky to Woods Hole Hostel, which is near Pearisburg, Virginia. We left Larry's truck at Woods Hole Hostel. The hostel owner shuttled us from Woods Hole Hostel near Pearisburg, Virginia to an hour and a half away to Partnership Shelter, which is located in the Mount Rodgers Visitors Center near Marion, Virginia. We got out of the vehicle and we hiked the 250 yards from the parking lot to Partnership Shelter, where we started our hike. Within a quarter of a mile, we noticed something wrong. Larry had left his phone in the back seat of the truck. That was a bad sign. That part of Virginia, there's not much cell service. Even though we tried with my cell phone, we couldn't get a hold of the shuttle driver. So we figured we'd hook up with the shuttle driver somewhere along the trail as we hiked north toward Pearisburg. We figured we'd just get his phone along the way. Let's see how we did.
It was roughly a 6-hour drive from Shepherdsville, Kentucky to Pearisburg, Virginia, and then from Pearisburg, Virginia down some country roads to get to Woods Hole Hostel. As usual, Larry and I parked our car toward the end of our hike, which was supposed to be Pearisburg, Virginia. Woods Hole Hostel is close to Pearisburg, Virginia, so we coordinated with the hostel owner to be our shuttle drive for this section hike. We left Larry's truck at Woods Hole Hostel. The owner charged us $20 for the week, and then Larry and I jumped in his truck and we headed off from Woods Hole Hostel back to Pearisburg, Virginia, and then down south to the start of our hike, which was going to be at Partnership Shelter that's located in Mount Rodgers Visitors Center, which is near Marion, Virginia. This was an hour and 45-minute drive, and the cost was $140. We got to the trailhead at Partnership Shelter around 4 p.m. With my pack weight, I had about 30 pounds of gear and food and water, and I was set up for 5 days. We took off and tried to get 9 miles in before the end of the day. When we started our hike, we had beautiful, bright blue skies. Temperatures were in the mid-80s, and the humidity was at 70%. It was pretty hot, and we were sweating pretty quickly. But, like most days in midsummer afternoons when you have these kind of conditions, a shower popped up. And it was heading our way. Would we get cooled off or would we stay hot and humid? We were waiting and seeing, and we were following a storm as it came along a ridge line. The outcome is it missed us. At around 8 p.m. we reached our destination, the Lindenwood School. This is an old one-room schoolhouse that was built in 1894. It's really cool, and it's one of the sights you see along the Appalachian Trail. Initially, we were set our tents up in the side yard, but it was so hot and muggy outside that we decided to just cowboy camp. So we set up our sleeping bags and our pads onto the front porch of the Lindenwood School, and we went to sleep as the sun set. We sat there and ate our Subway sandwiches, and we watched the wildlife, mostly the bats, come to life at night. Around 1:30 a.m., the full moon came out. It was quite a sight. We got to see quite a bit of nature by nature's little candlelight.
Hey everybody, Larry and Scott here on the trail in Virginia. We're outside my Partnership Shelter.
Yep.
And
4 miles out.
Want to show y'all we're up in the mountains, what's going on down in the valley. I'm gonna turn the phone around and you'll see some fog and you'll see a rain cloud over yonder that's gonna miss
in
it.
the distance.
So here we go.
Not yet. Wait for it. There's the rain off in the distance.
Yeah, there's your rain.
We don't know which way it's going yet.
We hope we're gonna be dry. Huh.
All right,
Later.
I didn't know you met with us first.
Hey
That's
everybody,
good.
we out here on the trail. Just want to show you we're looking off a mountain. We're just past, what, 7 miles past Partnership.
Yep.
And there's rain over there along with the sun. And we hope it's not coming this way. We got about another hour hiking and then we'll camp. Hey man, we're out here in Virginia. Just a couple of miles, about a tenth of a mile away from the schoolhouse.
Yep, built in 1800.
1800. There's a power line we just came underneath. I'm gonna be quiet. I want y'all listen to the energy coming off that thing. So here we go.
Amazing.
All right, we had to walk right underneath that thing. So we trotted,
Yeah.
so we wouldn't get shot by any kind of electricity. But we could hear that thing almost a half a mile away. Later.
The weather continued to be a story. Today, in mid-July, it was in the mid-80s and it was 70% humidity. It was sunny and hot almost the entire day. We had a lot of cow pasture crossings and that made it even hotter as we had no shade. It was just the sun barreling down on us. So that 18-mile day, that was one of the rougher days I've had out on the trail. It seemed like all we were doing all day long was going through cow pastures, crossing fence stiles, going through cow pastures, crossing fence stiles all day long. The only reprieve we got is when we stopped at a Sunoco station under the I-81 overpass and we downed a bunch of Gatorades. That was refreshing to get in some air conditioning and get some fresh fluids in us. As we were hiking along, Larry suddenly stopped. I said, "What's up?" He said, "Was that a stick? I've never seen a stick move like that before. Can you see it in the picture? It's a stick. Or is it a stick? Is it a snake or is it a stick? Sticks don't move. Snakes move. But snakes are perfectly camouflaged on the trail. So you got to pay attention as you're hiking along so you don't step on the snake that you think's a stick." We reached an 18 milestone today. We got to the quarter of the way signage for the Appalachian Trail. We're 1/4 of the way done. We're 25% of the way done. So we had to get our pictures taken. The obligatory pictures with the sign taken. Signs that show up in the middle of the AT trail as you hike along the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine, 2,200 miles long. Let me translate this sign for you. It really says, hey, you're going to leave the shade of the trail and you're going to go out into a bunch of cow pastures and you're not going to have any shade. You're just going to sit there under the mid-July sun and you're going to bake and you're going to sweat and you're going to dehydrate. Have fun. Now don't get me wrong. I really do like going through the cow pastures because when you get out in the wide open, you get some really spectacular views. You get great views of the mountains. You get great views of the pastures, the rolling pastures. So there's some pretty sights. It's just as rough to take in the mid-July summer heat with the sun baking you down as you cross those stiles into the pastures. So it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, especially in mid-July, but you do get those beautiful views. After 16.5 miles of hiking in the hot summer sun, we came to what we thought was going to be our end of the day hike, which was not Mall Bank Shelter. However, there was no water. So we ate our dinner and we grabbed our stuff and we moved on down the trail, 1.5 miles to Lynn Camp Creek. There we set up our tents and we tried to sleep, but it was so hot, it was so humid, it was so muggy. We just laid there. I think it was about 1 a.m. before I finally fell asleep. And then we had to get up again at 6:30 a.m. and start hiking.
Hey, this is Scott again. I'm out here on the AT in the middle of nowhere in Virginia, southern Virginia somewhere.
Cow pasture.
We're in a cow pasture. Larry and I are in a cow pasture that's giving us a view of this mountain range that we traversed along on the other side and then dropped on over to it to this side, came across Highway 66 or something like that, and came on into this cow pasture to go on into South Hostel River. Hopefully we can get some water because we're out. But that sucker is a long range. and that was fun to go over. So, later from the trail in Southern Virginia in the middle of nowhere. Here we are. Larry's going through the what is this thing called again?
Turnstile, we'll call it, but it's not.
Cow style, whatever.
Style, yeah, there you go.
This is how we get through the cow pastures, but the cows can't get through here. They can't make this 90-degree turn, so hikers can go through here. The other things we have is we have like these step over fences, step over ladders that we'll do. But those are the easiest ones because you don't have to climb. All right, up and over, here we go.
Day 3, and the weather continued to play havoc on us. Got up to the mid-80s with 70% humidity. It was dry, clear, and hot all day. This caused us to have low mileage today as we only got to 14 miles with 8 hours of hiking. The 5-mile climb up Chestnut Ridge, the Chestnut Knob shelter, that was difficult in this heat and humidity. At one point we sat down and had a 30-minute siesta just to try and recover. About a mile from the top we came upon a pond which was to be our water source. So we filled up with water and then we headed off for a 1-mile hike in the sun with no shade. It was baking us, but we finally made it. After that 5-mile climb, we finally made it to the top of Chestnut Knob, and we were rewarded with a bunch of good views as it was an open prairie at the top. Very few trees. Matter of fact, there was only one tree that we found useful, and we set up underneath there in the shade in the nice cool breeze and had a lunch and then had a siesta. At the top of Chestnut Knob, you'll find the stone shelter, Chestnut Knob Stone Shelter, to help protect hikers from the rough weather that comes along at this part of the trail. This is one of 3 stone shelters you'll find along the Appalachian Trail in the southern section. First is Blood Mountain Shelter in Georgia. The second is Roan High Knob Shelter, which is in North Carolina. And the third is Chestnut Knob Shelter, which is here in Virginia. After lunch, we took in our last views from Chestnut Knob, and we headed off along the Appalachian Trail to see what the afternoon would have in store for us. Along the way, we spotted a bear. He was well camouflaged in the shadows of the forest. Can you see him here in this picture? During the afternoon, something bad happened. Larry tripped and fell. We heard his knee pop. We thought it was his knee, or it could have been a twig or a branch, but we definitely heard it pop. It hurt him bad. He ended up limping the rest of the day. So between the heat and the humidity and his knee, we cut our hike short for the day, and we stopped at Virginia 623 and set up a tent. By lunchtime, we'd made it to Laurel Creek, the bridge in the creek, and we stopped and we cleaned up and tried to refresh ourselves because the day was hot, again in the 80s and 70% humidity. So we tried to get Larry rested up. He was definitely having problems with his knee. In the heat and humidity, they were playing havoc on his body. He tapped out. He said it was over. He needed to get into town. So he left and hitched a ride into town, and I stayed on the trail, and I finished the day out. We strategized about where Larry would pick me up. We finally decided that he would come get me at Trent's Grocery, about mile 75 on Virginia 606. So he took off and I took off. We went our separate ways. I wasn't too comfortable about this, and it leads to a lot of conversations about getting off the trail and leaving your hiking partner behind, either on the trail or off the trail. After lunch, I continued on hiking, alone. I had some interesting experiences that day. There were 2 deer, a doe and his mother, walking down the trail right toward me on a switchback. They probably got to about 15 feet away from me before they saw me. They were startled, and then they jumped in the woods and took off. Also during the day, there was a thunderstorm, a lightning storm, and it struck 2 bolts right close to me. I could hear where it hit the timber, and a tree was falling. I had to stop, turn my head 360 degrees to find that tree to make sure it wasn't falling on me. I continued on the trail, scurried along. I got to a 1.4-mile road walk down a pretty intense pavement. It was not fun. It hurt my knees a lot. The roads are a lot harder to walk on than the actual trail. And I finally got it to the climb, the last part of the day, to Helvey's Mill Shelter. That climb was tough. There's no good water at the top of the hill, so you got to bring your water with you. I had 3 liters of water with me. That was almost 7 pounds of water, going up a 20-minute climb. It was pretty intense. I made it there. I was exhausted. Just when I thought the day couldn't get any stranger, at Helvey's Mill Shelter, I ran into a 3-hiker. His name was Mr. Kim. He's from Japan, and his backpack was a converted baby stroller. So he pushed the stroller along whenever the trail was smooth, and then he carried it on his back whenever the trail got rough. Definitely different. I started early today, around 7 a.m., and I got my 16 miles in before 2 o'clock. It was a good thing because today was the hottest day of the hike. It was 85 degrees with 70% humidity. About halfway through my hike, I came upon Jenny Knob's shelter, which is a nice place for a break. However, the water source, it kind of smells bad, but I needed water, so I had to get it, I had to filter it, and I put a flavor package in it to try and help out the taste. Just past Jenny Knob's shelter is the 600-mile marker that somebody cleverly made with stones on the side of the trail. The next thing I knew, I was at the Kimberley Creek Suspension Bridge at Virginia 606, which was going to be the end of my hike. Larry was there waiting with the truck, and he whisked me down to Trent's Grocery, where I got a shower, a cheeseburger, chocolate milk, Gatorade, Coke, and orange juice. I was done, physically and mentally, but I was happy to get the 75-mile section hike under my belt.
Okay, I'm coming down the trail in Virginia around the 600 mark of the Appalachian Trail, and I'm coming down this creek. I just happened to glance over to my right side, and I see these rocks laying here, and what they are, someone has cleverly wrote 600 exclamation point for the 600-mile marker of the AT. Kind of cool. They usually do it pretty creatively at every 100-mile markers. At the 500-mile marker, somebody wrote it in the porta potty, or the privy rather, that's sitting right at the 500-mile marker. So they're all a little bit different, but this one's pretty good, although I almost missed it. Later. All right, Larry and I are going across the Kimberley Creek suspension bridge. This thing's pretty elaborate for us hikers. So you don't see these, it's wobbling. Holy shit. Hope I don't drop my cell phone. So if somebody loves heights, this is right up my alley.
Oh yeah.
Larry's back there jumping up and down on me. So here's what it looks like over here. And here's what it looks like over there. That water looks damn good after descending for 6 miles down out of that mountain. So it may look bad to you guys, it looks great to me. And it's nice wobbly. That's not me drunk or anything like that, that's a bridge. So here we go down the steps. So you can't get your little hovercraft around the AT, I reckon. And that is that. So kind of cool. Thought y'all want to see that. Bye.
Woods Hole Hostel and Bed and Breakfast is pretty cool, as it's a hostel and bed and breakfast and a working farm. So the owners, they work the farm. You got lots of farm animals there, including chickens and goats and pigs and cows, and a garden for farm fresh vegetables. Summertime is a slow time for hostels and AT traffic, so a lot of hostel owners do remodeling, and Woods Hole Hostel is remodeling all the bathrooms. They also have a nice 2-story bunkhouse, which works out really good, and it's a comfortable and clean place. Where we didn't have the opportunity to stay there this trip, I would definitely stay there if I came back through this area. It's nice and clean, and it has this little ambience that you would expect in a hostel that's on a backcountry road in the middle of nowhere off the Appalachian Trail.
All right, that wraps up this section hike video. 76 miles in the backcountry from Partnership Shelter near Marion, Virginia, all the way to Trent's Grocery in Bland, Virginia. Wildlife was a little scarce this time. We saw 1 bear, 3 deer, and 1 black snake. The weather was dry for the most part on this trip. It thunderstormed in the middle of one day, and then we had 2 nights where we had thunderstorms come in. The weather was hot for this trip. It was mid-80s during the day and mid-70s at night. It made it difficult to hike, and it made it difficult to sleep at night. I had a difficult decision to make, whether to stay on the trail and keep hiking or to get off with Larry. We couldn't figure out if Larry was just dehydrated, which he was. We couldn't figure out if anything was really wrong with his knee or if he just twisted it. It was really bad. He had a torn ACL. I was concerned, was it really safe for Larry to hitch a ride without a cell phone? We still discuss this situation every time we hike. He keeps reassuring me that I did the right thing, but I don't know. I'd like to hear what you have to say about this in the comments below. In the end, as we sat there, we compromised. I would do 25 more miles without him, but it just didn't feel right hiking without him. So I was glad to get off the trail, and I was even more glad to see him there to pick me up. Hopefully you learned something on this video. Hopefully it makes you think what to do or what not to do if there's an issue on the trail with your hiking partner. Hopefully we'll inspire you to go hike this section of the Appalachian Trail. To get notifications of when I add content to my YouTube channel, hit the red subscribe button below. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you dislike this video, hit the thumbs down. If you got any feedback, leave it in the comment section below. Thanks, have a nice day, and go hike the Appalachian Trail, the AT.